Hey everyone, good afternoon. Happy Drone Safety Awareness Week. Thanks for joining the Aloft webinar. We're excited to be here and talk about some new stuff that we're doing that for our culture, and what we're focused on is airspace safety. So one of our favorite weeks of the year. I'm Jon Hegranes, the CEO and founder of Aloft, formerly Kitty Hawk, and thank you for joining. Um, so for today, we have a short presentation, just kind of set the stage for what we wanted to showcase today with what we're doing with Before You Fly and our newest feature, Notify and Fly. Um, and from there, we'll kind of take it into more of an interactive um, demo and demonstration. We'll have some questions going. Please feel free to use the chat while we're going. And uh, looking forward to hearing questions or ideas that you all may have. So a little bit about Aloft. So we focus on airspace safety, drone operations. How did those two come together for maximum safety, maximum compliance, not only for you, for your company, but for the collective national airspace system, and how that all works together. So for today's Drone Safety Awareness Week webinar, we're going to be really featuring Notify and Fly, which is our newest element that we just launched that is really an interesting idea that I think those in the industry have thought about, but really was usage and actual the behavior and interest and feedback that we got on Before You Fly that got us to where we are today. So we will dig into that. Um, as we're going, hopefully you have Before You Fly already. If not, you can get the Before You Fly app in the mobile stores, iOS, Google. You can also go to beforeyoufly.aloft.ai to follow along. So if you don't already have those, hopefully they're on your home screen. If not, go ahead and get them. We'll do a little background over the next couple of minutes. So about Aloft, formerly Kitty Hawk. You might have known us by that name. We upgraded a couple months ago to Aloft. Our website is aloft.ai, and we power the largest network of drone operators and airspace stakeholders that are coming together. We were founded in 2015, based in San Francisco and DC, and really, I think unique across our platform and airspace UTM is we touch all stakeholders: recreational, commercial, government, law enforcement. Really think about how everyone shares the airspace is coming together, and really what we're trying to advocate for is drones are now the largest users of the airspace. We've already eclipsed traditional aviation tenfold. So how do we continue to do more, continue to do more safely? And that goes for all use cases, from what we see today in recreational drone flight, commercial drone flight, and where I think we're all excited to get to with drone delivery, taxis, and everything from there. Aloft is also the #1 Lance provider, so we do over half of all drone airspace authorizations today. We just launched a new version of Lance that has some pretty cool features. I think the one that really stands out is being able to do Lance at night for commercial operations. So that's available in the Aloft app. And as you'll see, all of the airspace that we do, whether it's Before You Fly, Aloft, it's all powered by our dynamic airspace platform. So same information, same design, same usefulness, just tailored a little bit for the different audiences. And then when it comes to Before You Fly, this we do in partnership with the FAA. We relaunched the new app in 2019, and it's really been a great experience since then. So really tremendous uptick in usage, in app reviews, and I think most importantly in feedback and kind of learning what everyone wants from the app. So a couple of milestones. We've surpassed 13 million airspace safety checks to date. We've also recently expanded to the web. So I think, as with most technologies, the primary usage is going to be mobile, but it's really handy when you can go to the web, and especially for sharing being able to go to an exact location. So really just getting started, and I think as we really want to serve this audience, this is the authoritative place to get information, and we want to keep improving the information that we deliver, plus the functionality that you're able to use by using Before You Fly. So a little bit about Notify and Fly, where this feature came from, where this idea happened. So just a quick history. So last November, we launched a crowdsourcing initiative, and really the thought was, how can we bring in other data? We kept having cities, states, just knowledgeable drone pilots starting to send us data saying, hey, something is missing here. And I think what's really unique about drone flight is there's not just one set of rules that you need to be aware of. You certainly need to know the airspace rules that pertain to your aircraft, but as I think many of us have found out, myself included the hard way, where your feet matter as well. And there's lots of cities that have local rules about where you can't operate. So not regulating the airspace, but where you can stand while you're flying. And so how can we make this information more readily available? And I think right now that kind of information is buried on websites, really hard to find out until a park ranger taps you on the shoulder. So that was our intent, was say, hey, let's bring in more data sets. And we're constantly bringing in more and more of those data sets for where you have restrictions that you need to know about, but also where are places that have places that are optimized and really focused for drone flight. And while we were doing that, I think very surprisingly, the number one submission that we kept seeing from people were that they were sharing where they were planning to fly. And really cool, because this wasn't part of some government mandate. This wasn't some remote ID rule. This was people wanting to share situational awareness. And it's just a snapshot of a recent month, but you were looking at submissions where I'm definitely getting some interesting information about parks, about AMA flying fields, but for the most part, we had recreational and commercial operators saying, I'm planning to fly here. And we really took that to heart. This was really persistent across every month since we launched our crowdsourcing initiative. So we said, let's make this a more real-time event where you can do this in the app, you're not submitting a form, and more importantly, it's now visible to everyone, because sharing situational intent is only as good as the audience that it reaches. And that's really what we sought to solve for and showcase with Before You Fly, is not only that functionality to share that flight intent, but also that platform so that others can view that as well and aid in the collective situational awareness. And I think that's probably separate from regulations or standards or things that are kind of going in the background of our industry, is that we can affect safety today in very cool ways, like what we have with Notify and Fly. So I'm gonna pause there, transition over to some live demos, and just lastly, always looking for feedback. You can reach our team at BeforeYouFly at Aloft.ai if you have questions, if you have ideas, if you just need some help with something. We're there to support that. In the app stores, we also have some of the FA contact info, who is there to help as well. But more than anything, the more that we can help with education, awareness, how to interact, we're looking to do that. So it's probably one of the best parts that we see, is that kind of interaction. So please reach out anytime. So I'm going to switch over to Notify and Fly, or to Before You Fly. I will note we have a couple of polls going on in the webinar. Feel free to post there, or just post some questions if you have them. So on the left, we have iPhone, mobile app. Here on the right, we have the web, so you can see, kind of as I mentioned, it's really nice. Depending on where you click, you get the exact Latin long. So really easy to take this, to share it, and go exactly to that point. And so just for some overview on Before You Fly, if this is new, really we're trying to very simply answer, can you fly here? And if not, what are things that you need to be aware of, whether it's, for example, we'll come in over here where we have a stadium that could be relevant to a TFR if there is an event going on. Here we look like it was likely a presidential TFR just based on the size of it. So it starts in one day. So this is giving you a heads up that, all right, this is, you can fly here right now, but come tomorrow, not recommended. You can see when it starts, when it ends. It looks like the president will be home for the weekend. We can click in here to actually go to the specific TFR and get more information. But really navigate throughout here. You can search by location. You can search by Latin long just by entering in some coordinates. So really interactive way to go about how you understand what's around you. If you look at controlled airspace, you're going to see if authorization is required, if it's available, and then in an airport that isn't Lance, for example. So here, Lance is inactive. This would be a case where you need to go to drone zone to get authorization, perhaps. But really the goal is very quickly, very simply give you a sense of, can you fly here, yes or no, and what you need to be aware of while you're doing it. We have some other resources here as well. Lance, you can submit data. So we still have this going, even with Notify Fly, where you can, based on your location, go into a form and share something about that address. It could be local parks. It could be something specific. We're constantly taking those in, so please continue to use that. We have some other resources here. Incident reporting, for example, is new from NASA, a way to share an incident and essentially be absolved of liability by doing that. Reminder to register your drones, links about trust, links about Part 107. So really other things that you can do here. The other thing I'll note too is as you expand advisories, you can share these. You can also learn more about them. You can say, hey, something doesn't look right about this advisory. You can flag it. So we're really trying to leverage this massive audience that we have, because one thing that we found is drone pilots are, I think, super informed. They want to contribute. They want to help. And so we're building in more and more tools so that you have the direct ability to actually improve the data. And I think that's overarching, I think, one of the biggest endeavors that we've been working on, the FAA has been working on, because we're starting to look at airspace at such a smaller level where, we're not just zooming out to 30,000 feet. We're trying to figure out, can I fly in a specific area, specific neighborhood? Drones operate at that much smaller scale, so how can we really get these data sets to where they're precise to the inch? In some cases, they're still off by meters, which I think is fine for traditional aviation, but matter when it comes to drones. So looking over here at the mobile experience, same functionality, same usability. You can search, you can go to specific locations, you can get a sense of if you're clear to fly, how you can, the advisories, really dig into all of this. So really on any platform, whether it's web, iOS, Android, giving you the capability to do this. So with that tutorial, that kind of overview, let's notify and fly. As we like to say, before you fly, notify and fly. So Um, let's start on mobile, for example. So let's let's say we're going over here to Long Island, and we're looking um, to fly over here. See, there's some restrictions along the beach. There's some larger airports that we want to avoid. Um, let's say we're going to be up here in the location. There for takeoff. There's no advisories. Again, you can submit data, so maybe there's something, some local ordinance or a rule perhaps, or just something that aids in the safety. You can submit. But if I tap on this blue icon here, this is the notify and fly button, and this gets you into the flow. Very simple. A little bit about this. It's not Lance. This isn't an official authorization. This is situational awareness. This is airspace safety, ensuring where you're planning to operate. So next, you select the type of flight that you're going to be doing. I think largely from what we've seen over the last couple of weeks, largely recreational, but first responders are starting to use this. Government agencies are starting to use it. So we're gonna follow a recreational flight, preview it, tap it, and that's it. We now have a live flight operation. This is active for the next 60 minutes. All of this we entered in by default. We certainly have plans to make this a bit more dynamic so that you could create more specific shapes, add some verification to it. But now, for example, if I come over to the web, go to Lens. What was that location? We'll see it here on the map. Another interesting location, just while we're in this area, there was a golf tournament recently that was here in some very busy area, and they were doing a lot of drone coverage. And really interesting because there's a couple of holes here that are actually in controlled airspace. Most of the course is not, and then you get into some of these um, uh, national security flight restriction areas. But you can be, here in fairly busy airspace that's next to you, and a great place to share situational intent. So you can do this from the web. You can set your type. Let's say it's going to be commercial. Just a quick captcha for security, and we have a flight zone. So it's able to be seen and observed by others that are flying in the area, and we want to make this data more accessible. So are there other companies that would want to consume this data? How can fellow pilots see and interact with this? So really just the beginnings, but I think really good potential. This ties into a recent DAC, Drone Advisory Committee recommendation of how can we start sharing data. And as drones are the most active user of the airspace, especially low altitude, we need to collaborate amongst ourselves. I think a lot of the attention to date has been spent on who, and really how can drones interact with other traditional aircraft, which is just hugely important. But just numbers wise, we're going to need to interact with fellow drone pilots and drone operations far more frequently than what we have in traditional aviation. So this is a really cool first step to start to see and interact with this type of information. So really excited to see where this can go and how we start to have really a more interactive situation where people can share and collaborate. So we've got a poll going on. like a third of people have used Notify and Fly, so it's just been out a week, so that's really cool. That's awesome adoption. Hopefully the others can give it a try. Um, let's see, a question from Darren. Do you plan to include NOAA? Yes, that's actually one of the data sets that we have, and we have queued up to go into our system. As I said, we just completed the Lance onboarding that included a lot of map updates, and so we're going back to see what are a lot of the data that's been submitted that we can publish and get into before you fly. So NOAA is certainly one of those. Cool. Erica, do you have any other questions that you've seen or stuff that we should discuss?
Yeah, we have a few questions that people submitted before the event. One from Paul Gordon. Can the Before You Fly app be used for Lance authorizations?
Well, good question. Not in the way it is set up. So I think that the really nice element of Before You Fly is you download it, you start using it immediately. There's no user authentication, and it's just you're able to view airspace. A key part of Lance is that authorization is tied to you, and so you would need to have a login system. So if you need to do Lance, that's where the main Aloft apps come in. And yeah, it's kind of, I think one of the other kind of related questions that we get a lot is when should I use Before You Fly? When should I start using Aloft, and kind of how do those fit together? And I think a good way to think about it is kind of how do you graduate? How do you go from a more kind of simple, let me help you start to think about airspace. Thinking about airspace is not a natural thing that most people do. And once you start flying an aircraft, whether you're sitting in it or otherwise, in case of a drone, you're starting to understand like, all right, there's a lot going on if I'm, in the New York area, for example, and I'm thinking about flying a drone here. What do I need to know and understand? So it really gives you that simple green, yellow, red, fly, don't fly type of information. Aloft is kind of that next step where you have an account, you're able to track your fleet, get weather, do Lance airspace authorization. So it's, as I mentioned, it's the same airspace, it's the same underlying technology. The key thing with Lance is you need an identity to tie that back to. So that's where logging in and using your Aloft account are used. So definitely, if you're going to be flying in controlled airspace, if you're using Before You Fly and you see that you're in blue airspace, controlled airspace, if Lance is available, make sure you get Lance. There are a ton more airports that support this. You can do really large shapes now, up to 10 miles. If Lance isn't available at a particular airport, use the drone zone to get authorization there. So Lance has probably never been stronger. Record numbers are being set, but practically from a total compliance, it's still pretty low. So we need to continue to get the word out, use Lance, and that you can do from the main Aloft app. So a couple other questions in the chat. John asked what kind of history or permanence is there to this data. So as you saw, the main, get back over here. So these are These are shown for 60 minutes. So we created a very simple shape that you can create in uncontrolled airspace. And after that time is up, that ceases to be visible on the map. So it's really, this is where active operations are happening right now. We definitely have thoughts to think about how we can do more planning, what's coming ahead. Just like we saw with the presidential TFRs, we see that this one is a little bit. This one is starting in a day, so really good to know. Very helpful. So right now, very temporal kind of data. It shows you when it's active, and then it goes. Another question by David. Is before you fly the definitive app to determine if you can fly safely and legally, or other apps. So I think this is a good question. I know a lot of people like to compare and get different answers. So I guess the main way to think about this is kind of like I was saying before. There's airspace data, and then there's other data that you might need to know about that's local. We have this in San Francisco, for example, where we show all of these local parks. So let's say like here we have Ralph Nichol Jr. Playground, and you cannot operate drones in local parks. So this is green airspace, but you should not be operating here. So I'd say that's where our app and others are probably lacking the most, are those local rules. When it comes to airspace, definitely Aloft and Before You Fly are using authoritative data. We're an approved UAS service supplier for Lance. We pull airspace data from authoritative FAA data sources when it comes to things like controlled airspace. So not get more authoritative from an airspace perspective. I think where we're continuing to build up and get more coverage is on what's local. So I think the way I see a lot of people interact is that out of abundance of caution, it's like, hey, let me check a few different apps, and I certainly wouldn't tell anyone not to double check. But if you're looking for airspace, what you're going to see Before You Fly in Aloft is as good as it gets. So Mark asks, can you add a notification spot that we can see and what it looks like? Yeah, so we did a couple of these, but I'll do it here in San Francisco, for example. If I'm fly. So now this should be able to be seen by anyone who's looking in this area. So I believe it's roughly real time. It certainly should be, but we've had thousands of these being submitted so far. So definitely give it a go. Okay, did we have any other offline questions?
Looks like we just got one from Stuart. If I am cleared for takeoff by the app, but I am informed by the local township rules forbid landing and takeoffs, will Before You Fly update the map to show that you can't fly from here? If so, how will this be displayed?
So again, that kind of goes to the local rules that we're really trying to ingest more information and collect more local data. But there's not a central authoritative place to get that unless we're getting submissions from cities and states like we're doing today. So it's one of those things where if you have that information about your city that you're flying in, or like in the case of San Francisco with some parks, um, definitely consider that when you're flying, because um, like we had in this park area, um, this is Class G. You're good to fly here airspace, and your drone can be over this park. You cannot be in this park where you're operating from, where your feet are, where you're taking off and landing cannot be. So um, that's what we're trying to promote more and more, is how can we uh, showcase that and pull more of that in, because like I said, I've had a park ranger come up to me because I didn't know the data wasn't readily available. So if you know stuff like that, please use our submit function. But that's a lot of what we're trying to accomplish. Cool. Awesome. Well, we certainly appreciate all of the um, time and interest for people attending, and there's a lot of interesting events going on for Drone Safety Awareness Week. Great thanks for everyone to be a part of that. And like I said, we're active and looking to get feedback, get ideas, hear questions. So submit before you fly. Come over here and send us something if there's as Stuart was talking about, a local township that forbid landing and takeoffs. Please submit that. We're looking to really fill this in so that you can have as much information as you can. The other thing that I think it's important to really get specifics on from local cities is, let's see the actual rule. Let's see the actual wording of it, because we've certainly seen a few examples where a township might want to restrict flight and nothing has actually been passed. So get the specifics of the rule, understand it so that you can comply with it, and then there's still going to be plenty of good airspace for you to do so. Erica, unless there's anything else, we can close this out. Let me just check the Q&A real quick.
Yeah, just one last question about if you have to have an Aloft account in order to use the notify and fly in before you fly.
No, so before you fly, there's no account. Just download it. You can start seeing information and submitting. To use Aloft, you do need to register. It's free, so check it out on App Store or Google Play, and you can create a free Aloft account and kind of have a more full-featured experience that brings all of the airspace elements in before you fly and adds a lot more to it, Lance and all of that stuff. Mark, I saw your other comment about VT details. We'll take a look at that, see what might be going on there, but I appreciate that. Cool. Well, thanks so much again. Really appreciate all the support. What we're doing with the FAA before you fly is really important to us, the audience and user base that it serves, and how we can continue to integrate drones safely into the airspace. So I appreciate everyone's focus on safety, interest in learning more about what we're doing with Before You Fly, and hope everyone has a great Drone Safety Awareness Week.